Ready Player One. Got
it. Welcome to Saints on Cinema. I'm Tim Wild.
And I'm Josh Redlow.
And with us tonight for our review, we have a special guest, Lance Carlile. Happy to be here. He missed the cue. We're this direction. And this is an exciting thing for me because I have my two best friends on the same episode doing this review, and Lance and Josh are my best friends. That shows you how desperate I am. So if you want to be my best friend, send an email to Saints on... I'm just kidding.
No, it's true. I would actually like someone else to become Tim's best friend.
Yeah, I was going to say, since when were we friends with Tim? Moving on.
Okay. Anyway, tonight we're doing a two or more witnesses review of Ready Player One.
Ooh, who's that?
Someone wants to be my best friend already.
Sorry, just like this like amazing hot girl popped up on like Tim's Facebook. I don't know. Anyway,
it's a bot.
It's a bot.
All right, can we get on with the review now? So we're reviewing today for our two or more witnesses review of Ready Player One. Oh, did I mess it up? Ready
Player
One.
I think the comma is after player, not anyways.
Ready Player, comma. One. We've all watched this. Josh watched the movie last week, and Lance took me to go see it in 3D against my better judgment, but he'll watch everything
in 3D. Can I say this? Anyone who doesn't watch Ready Player One in 3D, that's like an oxymoron. It doesn't make any sense.
You can't say that. I'm not going to agree with that, but you can say it. Anyway, so we're going to do a review. We have kind of some conflicting thoughts about it, as always, but we're going to go through our rating very quickly and do a review and discuss things that need to be discussed.
Very quickly.
It'll be quick. Conversation with Lance are very quick. Anyway, so I'm going to let Josh, I want you to start us off with this one. Go ahead and let's talk about the story first. What are your thoughts on the story? Without going a full description of it, because spoilers, but we're going to try not to give too much away.
Sure. So, I mean, the basic premise of the story is we're in 2045, and virtual reality has become more of a reality. It's become more advanced, and they've started this new game called the Oasis, and it's a virtual reality place, for lack of a better term, where everybody's got these headsets, and they're able to go into the Oasis, and the creator has made a lot of money on this. And the whole premise of the movie is that the creator has died, and he announces to the whole world that he has hidden an Easter egg within the game, and whoever finds it gets $500 billion and complete control of the Oasis. And so the premise now of the whole movie, the plot story, goes around people who are trying to find this Easter egg within the game.
And the hard part I had was trying to understand, because we all know I don't understand plot and I can't follow it. That's why I review movies. Because a lot of filmmakers don't understand the plots, but they're still producing movies. But anyway, so I was confused what the corporate, whatever their business was called. What was the business?
Oh, the O or
the IOI, yeah, IOE. It's because their visors, it had an I and then an O because they were like Cyclops and then an I.
Yeah,
IOI. It's not I. You don't say the I. Isn't it just I? Anyway, the bad guys, lol. It's like LOL. They were. I didn't understand what their agenda was for finding it. Can either of you explain that to me? Because I didn't get what the connection was with them with having power, other than they wanted to commercialize it. Is that it?
Well, and they were in it for the money.
That's it.
They don't really care about
just
the
a business
guy or the I mean, they wanted the stock. Like, what was it? Like 80% of the stock or whatever. They just wanted the money.
It was just a corporate greed thing. That's it.
Yeah.
No politics. You didn't run the world or anything like that. It's just.
Well, I mean, if you control the game that everyone's obsessed with, then you control the world. But...
everyone's brains and mentality. All right. Well, that's the other subtext of the premise.
The point of that, there had some more premise to it, but that was the basic idea of what the corporate America was wanting to do. This corporation is they wanted to monetize it, and the owner of it was very much against that. And he was more of an artistic type who enjoyed 80s and 90s video game and entertainment, which is why you see a ton of kind of special appearances by different 90s characters and 80s characters like Beetlejuice and Iron Man, Iron Giant, and different things like that.
RoboCop, Batman.
Right. It was a little bit like the producer versus the director theme, where like the producer's only worried about the money and the corporate side, and then you've got the guy that's actually the artist, the director, who's in it because he wants to tell his story or that
Cares
kind of
about
thing.
the content. Yeah.
You get a little bit of like Steve Jobs versus like Microsoft, that kind of like weird thing, and yeah.
So that was the cool part, was that character, the whatever his name was, the guy that created it, the Oasis, and all the nostalgia stuff that was thrown into there with the big slap of the Steven Spielberg label on top of that. It was fun seeing all those little Easter eggs, and I am excited to watch that first opening scene when he first introduces the audience to the Oasis through the narration, and he goes into the first corridors or whatever, all the characters are walking in and out, and you see like RoboCop and everyone. To be able to go through that slowly to see who was all there, because there was a lot of characters there. It was kind of like the first time I saw Wreck-It Ralph, and you see when Wreck-It Ralph, they shows the corridor where they're all talking and interacting with each other between the video games. That was one fun part about it, was seeing those characters. Beyond that, the story was okay. The story I don't feel flowed very well. The whole time I was watching, I was thinking of Wreck-It Ralph, and I was thinking how Wreck-It Ralph had just as much detail with a few characters, and it was a clear narration of the story. It went from point to point to point to get through the story, and I understood where they're going for and where the twists were, who the bad guys were, what their motives were, and the story made complete sense to me. Yes, it's a cartoon and a Disney movie, but I don't see why it should be any different. I think this movie was a little choppy and confusing the way they told the story.
I agree
with that?
I agree.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I think it may have come from the fact that this is a movie that's based on a book, and I think the book has a lot more detail. And from what I've been told by people who've actually read the book, that there is a lot more explanation in the story that helps you understand it better than in the movie. So I agree, it was kind of choppy, and there were times where things seemed a little rushed. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more backstory as to who Wade Watts was, where he came from. You get a little bit of the story at the beginning. They talk about how, his parents passed away and he was living in, basically a futuristic trailer park, and, he's living with his aunt. But there wasn't a lot more about that. There wasn't a lot of backstory about any of his other friends after he met them, or how he met them, or how long he'd known them. There wasn't a lot of that. There wasn't a lot of backstory on anybody except for James Halliday, who was the owner and creator, who also was, I know we're not into characters yet, but in my mind was the absolute most interesting character of the whole show, and he was dead.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing the plot that I didn't understand, and maybe you guys did, I haven't read the book, was the guy that was James Holliday's like friend. Like at first, at the end, when he came back in, I thought he was a bad guy or something. Like he was the one that went the corporate way when James Holliday wanted to go the non-corporate way,
and
but somehow they're like friends, and they're the guys are like that lost me a little bit. That was really fuzzy. That plot, I didn't understand.
So when on Red Letter Media, they were talking about that character, and for him to be in the Oasis as the butler for anyone to come in and out to the library of his brain, he would have had to have been there, synced in for 5 years, just helping people whenever they came in.
Like, what a boring job, man.
It's like all he did for the 5 years.
Like, if I could go anywhere in a virtual reality world that I created, I'm going to be a librarian.
Just memorizing all the files of this guy's life. It was weird. You didn't understand like their relationship.
No offense to librarians in the audience.
Do you have anything else to add, Josh?
Yeah, I would say I agree with everything that's been said. I think that was another kind of casualty of converting from a book to a movie. I'm sure that the book had a lot more detail on that relationship and how it deteriorated over time. Because you get a little bit of a flavor of that. You understand that they were together at one point, and then they suddenly, for whatever reason, whether it had to do with his partner's wife or some other reason, they split away, and that was his biggest regret. That's what his one of his biggest regrets. You also don't really get a lot of flavor for how the CEO of the corporation, what his dynamic was with James Halliday, because you learn that he was an intern with James Halliday and he was trying to work with him, and Halliday kind of brushed him off a little bit, but there was really nothing, there wasn't a lot diving into whether he felt slighted, whether he had some sort of personal vendetta, or whether it was just straight greed. It seemed like there could have been a personal vendetta there, because he tried so hard to, I mean, at least in that one scene, he tried so hard to kind of buddy up to him and kind of help him and show how he could monetize it, and he got kind of brushed off. It seems like there's got to be more there than just pure greed, because if it's just pure greed, then it's really not that compelling of a story.
And it makes the end test where he was signing the contract for, that was the balance of that whole thing, or the reflection and reality of what his biggest mistake was. Well, other than not kissing the girl, but that was the final test, was if he was going to fall for the same mistake. And yeah, that doesn't pay off if it's kind of a weak premise, because that was like the big, huge moment at the end, the decision when he finally won, but he almost didn't catch it.
And the movie was, I think it was 2.5 hours long. So, I mean, it wasn't like it was a short movie, but it felt like they could have added another 30 minutes just to give you more backstory, so that these decisions that were made, like deciding not to sign the contract, it seemed to me like when he was about to sign the contract, I'm going, yeah, sign the contract. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, it's a test. I'm just going, oh, it's a test, really? Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't, I felt like there should have been, because you got the wizard character and they set it up, as very like, there's going to be a very deep hidden theme where we're going to it's going to teach the audience a lesson, but it never really materializes.
You learn, make sure you read the contract before you sign.
It basically consists of, I'm not into corporation stuff. Here's all this money because money is what's important. Okay, whatever.
From a movie that Spielberg was paid by Hollywood to produce.
I think there was a really good lesson to be learned about virtual reality. I'm hearing more and more about virtual reality. I have a PlayStation VR, and I think it's amazing. And to think that it's in its very, very early stages of development, to think where we can go. It was a great time for this movie right now, because I can actually see VR going that route at some point in our lifetimes. But I thought it was a really interesting, thought-provoking moment when he's sitting there talking to Wade about how virtual reality can never really replace reality, and how reality is really important, and kind of teaching him to take the chance in reality, with his girlfriend with the weird birthmark on her face. That whole dichotomy there, I thought that was a really important lesson as we move on into virtual reality, because I could see how virtual reality in 20, 30 years can become, that would be an escape for a lot of people. A lot of people will be
before we cut to Lance, because Lance can talk for 20 hours about virtual reality. Before he goes on that tangent, I want to say the other lesson there is, besides that, the reality versus the oasis, that it's important to also live your life. And we've seen that message in other movies that are really good. But the other thing that came out at the very end was how which reinforces that, is when he told them that they as a group decided to turn off the oasis 2 days a week, so that everyone was forced to get outside.
But they chose the wrong 2 days. I told Tim, everyone knows you turn virtual reality off on Sunday and Monday.
So good.
Not, what was it? I think it was
Tuesday and Thursday or something. So you can go in virtual reality all week, and then you can still be a Sunday Mormon or whatever, and go to family home evening
on Monday.
Yeah, and watch football those 2 days.
Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah. So that was the other message, is that there's time that you can't just invest all your time. We watch, people glued to their cell phones, and people are so addicted to games and social media and everything, that people are just living there. As soon as we can go into those worlds in virtual reality constantly throughout their whole day and spend their whole lives there, that's an even more important message, to diverse your time and make sure you're doing these other things in real life that are just as important, that are more important, obviously.
It feels like that was sort of just strapped on more than it was like the main theme of this movie.
Like we need to
Like,
make this movie about something. Here's
It's
the
funny,
message.
but I don't think this movie is about virtual reality, even though there's a lot of virtual reality in it. And, that was more of just the setting more than like this movie is a commentary on the evils of virtual reality and what's going to happen. Like that was more just tacked on,
They didn't,
which
yeah.
is fine. I mean, it didn't bother me. But if you're going in this to like have an intellectual conversation about virtual reality and its future, then this is not the movie for that.
Because it glorifies it.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even that. It's just more of the setting.
Yeah.
At the same time, virtual reality did play an important role in the lessons that James Halliday, through this contest, was trying to teach. Right? I mean, he talks about the reason he even created the Oasis was because he had a very hard time relating to people in the real world. So he created the Oasis as a way for him to escape so that he could try to relate to people. And he kind of showed that was a mistake, right? That wasn't what he was trying to do. So I think there was, and it probably came across better in the book. I'm making a lot of assumptions about this book because I've heard it's really good and it's like 40 or more chapters long. So I got to figure it's pretty in depth. I just think the reason the story was probably choppy is because you missed a lot in the book, or missed a lot from the book, rather.
Yeah. All right. So final verdicts on the story. So out of 2, you can do decimals if you want. Josh, what would you give it?
I'd give it a 1.
A 1?
Yeah.
Lance?
Can I do it out of 10 and you guys do the math?
Sure.
I would give the story 5 out of 10. So I guess that's 1
a
out of 2.
Yeah.
I think this story was probably the weakest part of the movie.
Yeah, and I'm on board. Same thing, 1. And mostly, again, because even whatever the story was, if you like the story, didn't like the story, no matter what, it wasn't very clear what they were doing, and it was kind of, like I said, choppy in the pacing. Not the pacing of the action and everything, but the pacing of what they were developing throughout the story. I just didn't think it was clear and well done. So
I'll say that the first and second acts were really solid. I really liked them. I liked the build up at the last battle. All of that was good. It just fell apart in the third act and the end of the second act. It was like, that's the best you can come up with as a
it's like they wrote themselves in a corner. Yeah, like they had this great idea, and they're like, "But how do we end it? I don't know. Let's plug in a little message, and here's a little basic synopsis of this character that they were following the whole time, and that's about it." Yeah. Oh well. Okay, so moving on to characters. I think, what's the guy's name?
Like the Josh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
1, 1, 1. 1's all around. So solid 1 for the story. Good job, Steven Spielberg. But see you guy's name, the main guy.
Wait,
the main guy. What's his name? Mary Poppins.
Yes. You got that right. No.
Don't spend your whole life in the
his
chalk
name was
painting. Wait, okay. He was awesome, and I really liked him. I think there's a lot of people that are going to see this movie for nostalgia reasons, or video game reasons, or just the cinematic excitement that was going on with this movie and what they were seeing, that everyone can relate to something about this character. And there was a lot more depth. And I think the highlight of this movie was, as they were piecing together the puzzles through the tests, the parts of his life that revealed something about the depth of him. And even though he wasn't alive, I don't know, that was kind of weird if he was alive or not, if this was a avatar that they were talking to at the end. That was really ambiguous, how he just walked off into the sunset with his little version. It was kind of confusing because he kind of looked like he was like, oh, you figured something out.
Yeah,
but,
what was the point of that?
So it's a little weird, but the character itself, when he turned from the wizard into the guy, you were kind of like, oh, he's here, and that was kind of cool. I think he was really well developed, but that was I don't know, it's not a deduction, but the whole movie was based around revealing slowly who this character was. And I think everyone watching this movie could relate to something about him. I think they appreciated that. And my favorite step in that, by the way, was the Shining scene. I think that was the funniest. I couldn't believe when they got there. But that was interesting how they got to the Shining when they went to the movie library and the things he'd seen, and piecing together where he went on that date with the girl. And then they went in, and the one big guy was really scared about everything. He was really jumpy, and he's the one that found the girl. Yes. Sorry, you shouldn't judge on avatars.
Before, like in the moment they revealed the big guy, the moment he appeared, what did I say to him?
It was a girl.
I said, I guarantee that's a girl.
So don't judge off of avatars, especially if you're getting into like cyber dating and stuff. Be very careful. But anyway, but yeah, he's the one that revealed that he found the girls. I was like, oh no. And then he went to the elevator. I was like, there's no way they're gonna do the blood. And then here comes all this blood in a PG-13 movie.
That scene was very well done. Too.
Yeah.
If you look, it looks like they used actual footage from the Shining.
It did.
And they even kept the grain in. And the grain was different than the actual CG characters, which is just, it was really this, well, we're not in cinematography,
no,
but that's
but,
pretty well.
Yeah, but that scene, but how it built up to that, the horror of, and I love the payoff of all that horror stuff leading into the most scary thing to him was going for the kiss. And I think that was hilarious. I think a lot of nerds, I know that sometimes I can relate to that, that can be more horrifying than watching The Shining or walking through the experience of the hotel of The Shining. No, that's even more scary. But anyway, I think that was hilarious. But all those reveals about his personality were great. I think this character was fantastic. It was really well done.
I agree that the main character was very well done. I think the surrounding characters could have used a little bit more depth and where they were coming from. I think that there could have been a lot more about the CEO. I think there could have been a lot more about his love interest and where she was coming from. I mean, she kind of just appears and then becomes his love interest. And then she's like, yeah, and this CEO like destroyed my whole family. And then we're like, oh, okay, so he destroyed your whole family. Great. And then that was, and they're like, oh, so you really have a vendetta about all this, I guess.
It's kind of like the bad guy in Avatar. It's like he was just your stereotypical, just musclehead military general who's just like, I hate everything. I got to execute the mission. I'm just a big gruffy, mean guy. It was the same thing, only it was a corporate version.
Yeah, and I just really don't like this need in America to like have some rich white 1%er that just wants to destroy everything that's beautiful so they can make $1. Like, there was so much more to that character. I mean, he was there.
Back up. Disclaimer: Josh is a lawyer.
For a firm.
He's also a
big law firm.
That's true.
That's racist.
But the point is that there could have been so much more than just your stereotypical, CEO of a big Fortune 500 company, because he worked for the guy. He clearly wanted to be with them and wanted to be a part of the Oasis. And James Halliday, whether it was because he didn't agree with him or whether because he just couldn't relate to him, and he's just kind of weird, whatever the reason was, he should have felt slighted, and that should have been part of the reason, or it should have been brought out that was part of the reason why he wanted to take over the Oasis and monetize it and do all these things. It wasn't just because he's some greedy guy. He has a vested interest in this. So yeah. I didn't like that. I didn't like that maybe I just have a hatred for this whole class warfare thing that's going on in America anyway. And it comes out in Hollywood movies all the time. But that, and I also, like I said, the love interest. The love interest should have had a little bit more. She should have had more screen time in explaining her backstory, because she also had a very big personal vendetta against the company, and it really wasn't presented well to get you vested into her character and feeling her anger.
The thing that bothers me the most about her, I think they really lost an opportunity on her character, because the first time you see her character, she's an avatar, right? She's a video game character, and she's the typical, hot girl,
that's typical
your dream girl. And then they sort of set her up where she's like, oh, if you saw me in real life, you wouldn't feel the same. And then you see her, the first time you see her in real life, she's like, she looks almost exactly, she's like the exact same body. Yeah. The only thing that's different is she has like this scar that's not even ugly. It's like,
it's kind of cool looking. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they should have made her like a middleweight girl, maybe a little nerdy. Yeah. And they should have played off the fact that like appearance isn't what's important. It's your personality or whatever. But so it's just like, whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But, to say that appearance didn't matter, then they'd be lying, right? I mean,
But that's also pandering to the audience, that a lot of these audience who are gamers, that's a fantasy of theirs, that the person behind the avatar is some hot girl that it's a fantasy.
Whatever.
So I agree. I think all the characters besides the main guy, no, I don't mean the main character, but Wade, is that his name? Were all pretty two-dimensional. They're really flat. I don't think, especially the hero, other than that he lives in a trailer park and he wanted more. I didn't understand his motive, what he's really going for.
I don't know. To me, I thought the characters were okay, except I'll agree that the villain was very one-dimensional. However, I think they did that for a reason, because this was very much a stylized movie. It was a video game movie.
Yeah.
And in video games, I mean, in general, all the villains are one-dimensional, so...
But he was in the real life, or in the real world, and all these other supporting characters, when they revealed their real-life people, were all very flat.
I think to me, it felt very much like Goonies in VR.
Yeah.
I mean, it was... And didn't Spielberg do Goonies, too?
No, that was Donner, Richard Donner.
No. But yeah, it was like Goonies in VR.
That was the first time on our show that I've actually pulled movie trivia out and used it in an applicable conversation.
Said it only took 22 episodes.
22 episodes. I said something factual and intelligent.
So can I say this? Tim gave this 1 out of 2 on story, but he gave Star Wars 0 out of 2. However, I was in the theater with Tim. He fell asleep during this movie. Do you want to explain how that happened, Tim?
I'll just say I wasn't very engaged after the Shining scene. I was like, "That's awesome, climax." No, I was just really. I fall asleep in theaters all the time because I'm staying up until like 5 a.m. doing this show. That's a terrible excuse, but that's my life. I can't sit in a warm, dark theater because I got close to the 2-hour point when I started to check out, and then we had another like hour of the movie. I don't have any excuses. It was just sad. I didn't have a soda. I drink water that night too. I usually have a Dr. Pepper when I watch movies.
Well, at least you could have come up with a better story than I'm up till 5 a.m. doing this show. You could have at least come up with something like I was out partying or.
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant. I mean, I have to go out to my parties, and then at 2 a.m. I get home, and that's when I start editing.
Yeah, nobody believes
Tim's parties consist of watching B movies at my house.
Eating Doritos, watching terrible martial arts movies, and yeah. Anyway, I'm not one of the characters. Why are we talking about me? So the characters, what do you give? I say 1 out of 2. I love the main guy, but everyone else was short. And even if they had some potential depth to them, they didn't explore anything with anyone. I don't think. That I say 1.
Yeah, I would say a 1 as well.
I'm gonna give it a 2, and I'll tell you why. Because Holiday's character alone, sold it to me. His character was very, very. I thought the acting in this movie was great. So I don't know if that is in your character. Do you have an acting?
Are you talking about the voice actors? Oh, I guess there were. I guess live action. There was like 10 minutes of live action in this movie. That's true.
They're really good. I thought,
it's
especially Holiday. He played the part. He played the character, and his character was very interesting. You wanted to know more about him. I think he should have had more screen time.
But in the movie, that's the problem. In the movie, they didn't budget the time to give us more time with the character. That's why I wouldn't go that way.
Yeah.
Even if it's an intriguing character, if you didn't give adequate time for that character that you need to, if it's someone you should. I'm not saying like you need to, you have Empire Strikes Back where Boba Fett's in there for a few minutes. It's like he's a great character, so we need a whole movie about him for this movie to be good. No, but he's the main character. You need to give a little more time.
Holiday wasn't the main character.
I think so.
The wizard guy?
Yeah.
I don't think he's the main character.
Yeah.
Wade is the main character.
Wade Watts is the main character. But what does it tell you about the characters of the show when the most interesting character is the dead guy? So I mean,
that's brilliant. I think that's a more impressive thing about it is that they scored so much interest in this person who's dead.
I would love to have known more about each one of the other characters. Now, granted, there's obviously not enough time in a 2.5-hour movie to get 6 characters, enough time to really get you to be interested in all of them. And it wasn't even necessary to do that. But any one of them or 2 of them, the CEO, the love interest, the 3 other characters would have made the whole story, I think, a little bit more intriguing and would have made me more vested in the outcome.
But you have this motley crew of kids that you didn't even get introduced to half of them until the last half hour of the movie.
Well, but they still kept with the video game tropes, and they did it in a very, very like accurate and funny way. You've always got the two Asian guys that like are always kicking everybody's trash, and
Yeah.
one of them is always a
Little kid.
10-year-old kid, and you've got the guy that plays a girl, or I'm sorry, in this case, it's the girl that plays a guy, and I mean, they were very realistic, I would say, in terms of the video game world.
All right, we're gonna mark history right now. I'm gonna give this a 0.5. I mean, another 0.5.
1.5.
1.5. I'm
Let me do
breaking
that
into a
math for you,
decimal.
Tim.
Thank you. I'm gonna break down. You've convinced me. They were characters that, and there was loyalty to what they were going for, but again, that it doesn't get a 2 because they didn't give enough time to, and they could have
I'll go
budgeted
with
some of the
1.5.
action scenes.
Or are we doing a? I'll give it a 1.5.
All
I
right.
don't think it was a awesome character story. But
Okay, so you're breaking your 2 down. So we compromised. That's the first time in our lives we've ever compromised.
I'm just being honest. It has nothing to do with you, Tim.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about cinematography.
Just so everybody knows before we move on, I'm staying at 1.
So not perfect history going, but that's okay. This is a big deal.
Again, I have to repeat, the fact that we agreed on something is complete coincidence.
All right. Cinematography. I can't think of a lot of specific examples, but I think there were some amazing shots. I wish I had a notepad. I need to start taking notepads when I watch movies, so maybe that'll keep me awake. But I think that some of the angles and the some of the things, especially during the action sequences, were really well done. I think some of the directions, the long takes, the long perspectives, especially where they're animating so much happening at the same time. I think the end battle was a little overdone. I mean, I'm not giving it points for that because it's a big, huge action sequence with a lot of similar things going on. But mostly the high-speed chase scene was a big one, and a lot of the stuff they did in the Shining sequence was really good, and stuff in the library. I think the things like the animation with, I know we're talking about special effects, but the way that as they were exploring the rooms, as they were seeing even the beginning when they were all on their invisible transparent tablets reading the message where the guy was telling about the Easter eggs and everything, how it was like panning through the group and they were all looking at it from different angles and seeing it off of each other, or you could see the whole room through the one that was right in front of the camera. I don't know if I'm making any sense. It was just very realistic, very interesting how they were, kind of establishing this world through long shots and short shots. It was beautifully done, I would say. I'm going to give it a 2, but I don't know if you guys have any other things that stood out or things you want to talk about, but just it was really well directed as far as how they animated it. Most of it was animation, but still, you still have to figure that stuff out, like it's a camera angle.
I agree. I thought it was a 2. We didn't expect anything less from the movie. So
Yeah.
I think now that I sort of understand this rating system a little bit better, I'm not going to give it a full-on 2. I mean, it's not the best cinematography I've ever seen, but I will give it this credit. Like, again, I already talked about the Shining scene, how they put the actual film,
was it though? Did they recreate the elevator and stuff? Was it digital?
The blood, the blood was so gross and realistic that it was very believable. This is what I think that they did really, really well. This was a movie about video games, and it could have easily turned into a Michael Bay special effects fest, and it never got boring or over the top. I felt like in terms of video games,
it slowed down where it needed to.
Yeah, it wasn't about the special effects, which is really good because this is a movie about VR. They could have totally been about the best special effects and all that thing. It's the thing about cinematography that a lot of film scholars say is if you can notice it, it's bad. Yeah. If you don't notice it, then it's telling the story. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So
cinematic invisibility, it's called. That's too
cinematic invisibility.
Well, but it's invisibility because it's an invisible.
That's what I said.
You said visibility. Okay, we replay. Cinematic invisibility, it's called. That's too
cinematic invisibility.
See, I was right.
So that's the only thing I can remember is the Shining part, cinematography wise. I'll give it a 1.6.
I'm rounding your score to 1.5 because I'm not gonna get crazy with your decimals. All right, so 2, and 1.5. Great. Okay, so let's talk about special effects.
I think that the special effects didn't distract from it. I thought they made a good move where they made the avatars very cartoony instead of trying to make them too realistic. Like they didn't try to go Admiral. I can't think of his
General
name.
or Moff Tarkin.
Yeah, they didn't try to go Moff Tarkin on it.
For the record, Moff Tarkin was awesome. Lance is freaking crazy.
It's terrible. It's a terrible mistake.
Anyway,
Are we giving special effects a score?
Yeah.
Special effects, like, I don't know, I give it a 1.5.
really? You don't think it's solid too?
No, I mean the special effects weren't anything amazing. They didn't
Are you
distract
serious?
from it, but
The chase scene, the DeLorean, like, didn't it feel like there was an actual DeLorean racing down the road with all that stuff?
yeah, it was good. I don't understand this rating system.
So in my mind, a one out of 2 is like they got the job done. But a 2 is like I was like really impressed. Like they went over above and beyond
yeah, I'm
expected.
giving it a 2.
You don't think this movie's special effects were above and beyond
No,
CGI?
it didn't have anything exceptionally awesome.
Name
about the
one
special
movie you
effects.
think would be a 2, just so I understand where your mind is.
The back in the day when Star Wars came out.
No, we're talking about with modern CGI, where I mean you would have to rate those based on when they were made. Just like I just watched Captain America, I gave that a 2 based on when it was made.
I would have given Final Fantasy Spirits Within a 2 on special effects.
Gosh.
I would have given it like a 0.1 on story. And
All right.
anyway,
And this will be Lance's last time.
at the time, if you go back and watch it now, like,
What about Avatar? Would you say that's 2 out of 10?
yeah, I would give, yeah, Avatar, I'd give it 2.
Yeah.
Again, I would give the story a 0.1, but the
Yeah,
special effects were amazing.
The special effects were exceptional in my mind. This was the first movie I can ever remember where I actually felt the absolute need to see it in 3D. And I was let down again, like I always am with 3D.
You can't just say 3D as a blanket statement. There's different kinds of 3D. Like, what theater did you see it in?
I saw it in a Cinemark XD 3D theater.
That's what we
That's
saw.
the same
It's
as
the
we
exact
did.
same.
Yeah.
It was okay.
The majority of people that the majority of the 3D haters that I listen to, subscribe to, give me the exact opposite feeling. They say, why is it's like a ride. Things are just jumping out at me the whole time. It's distracting from the movie. What's the point?
Yeah, and that's not I think if you're going to make things 3D, it should pop out of the screen at you. I mean, I don't know. In this
It's
movie,
not just about texture. It's about a special effect, or not special effect, but a part of the experience. It's supposed to be a little more. You feel like you're really there. I feel like every when I watch a 3D movie, every time the camera changes to a different shot, which is throughout the entire movie constantly, your eyes have to constantly adjust. It's not like you have a headache or anything from watching them. It's just I feel like my eye has to transition to what the effect is of the new camera angle, and the things pop out in different ratios and different depths based on how they shot and what's on the screen. That your brain just constantly adjusting. That it's like distracting.
yeah,
Well, I feel like that's more like a screen size problem than having.
You were in the same theater I was.
I can't objectively look at 3D like you guys because my rule is I don't watch a movie in the theater unless it's in 3D.
It's very true.
So the last time I saw
a
a non-3D movie was probably at the movie before Avatar. So I'm so used to 3D. If I see a movie that's not in 3D, I'm like, what is this crap?
You're like, it's so flat.
Because I live my life in a 3D world, so it doesn't jar me when I go into a movie that's 3D. I will say this about 3D. Sales are going down in the US, but they are skyrocketing in Asia, and there's more people over there. So the future of cinema is going 3D. They're still trying to figure out what works better and what,
Okay, so special effects, Lance. What are you gonna give it then?
what did I say, a 1.5?
Okay, I'm fine with that. Okay, let's talk about music. Josh, what do you think about music? I'll let you start.
I love the music in it just because I'm an 80s and 90s nostalgia geek. So hearing all those songs made me enjoy it quite a bit more. And also, a lot of that stuff, the artistic genre that it kind of met, I really
Did you notice? I'm just curious. Did you notice anything other than the little jingle from the Back to the Future sequence or series? That it came out in the music. Did they have any other little hidden themes in there that I missed?
Yeah, they had "We're Not Gonna Take It."
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Oh, they had a lot of.
It sounded like there was a lot of stuff. I just didn't catch it. That was
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. That was I think part of the movie's appeal to our generation would be that you get to see there's references to John Hughes movies, and you see Beetlejuice, and I think was Edward Scissorhands in it. I think he might have been in it too. Well, maybe he wasn't. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe I dreamed.
There was a lot of franchises that had nothing to do with Spielberg in there, and I was really amazed about that. I don't know how that happened in the licensing or how expensive that was, but I was really impressed.
I doubt they paid licensing for everything. They're gonna get away with it because it's like, oh, you're the lawyer.
Equal or fair use.
Yeah,
it's not fair use. Would this movie count as a parody?
Yeah, no, seriously.
Okay, anyway, music.
I thought that the music and the sound was great. I enjoyed it. I thought it added a lot to the movie. It added to the nostalgia you feel while watching it. So I would give it a 2 out of 2.
2? Lance? I'm giving it a 2 as well.
So I usually don't go to the XD theaters. I don't like Cinemark. I like Megaplex, and I expect Megaplex to now offer me some kind of repayment for my advertisement. But
some executive at Megaplex watched this.
Saints on Cinema.
Look at that, he's got 31 subscribers.
They owe us a nickel.
Yeah. Hey, those are very important subscribers.
Yeah, he's one of them.
The sound was really clear, and the mix was interesting. It felt very tinny to me, like there was not a lot of bass in it. Like when I hear the songs come in, I expect to be hit by that song and the bass like a brick wall. Like We're Not Gonna Take It, when that came on, it was cool because it was nostalgic, but it didn't hit me like a song. Yeah, like a theater, a rock concert. It was like.
So is that the movie or the
that's the mixing?
Though?
Yeah, that's what I don't know. Is it that we were in a theater where, the minimum wage theater operator didn't turn the bass up right, or was.
So if we were in a Megaplex theater, maybe it was like really bassy and really powerful and impacting.
The soundtrack didn't like jump out. The score didn't jump out at me as like incredibly moving, and I really like scores.
Do you think it told the story though? Do you think it really?
Yeah, it wasn't distracting, and the songs that were nostalgic were fun and cool. And that's what I gotta say about this whole movie is like it's enjoyable just on a nostalgia level. And that's the jokes were funny because there are all these inside jokes, and yeah.
What's your rating on the music? 1?
Well, I'm gonna have to give it a 1, yeah, just because of the mixing thing. And again, I don't know if that's the theater or.
So anyway, final thoughts. I really enjoyed it. I have our total, so I overall gave it an 8.5. Josh gave it a 7, and Lance averaged out at a 6.5.
So wait, what's the 10 out of 10 or something?
10 out of 10.
Yeah, that's about right. I would give it about 6 stars out of 10. Like I feel like this movie. Go ahead, Josh.
I gave it an 8.
Solid 8.
You said 7. Come on, Tim.
Did I say 7?
Yeah.
Let's do a replay. Josh gave it a 7. And
look, we all know that math is not 10.
That's pretty good. And I wrote that down. I wrote 7.5 before I pulled out the calculator while Josh was talking.
I get the feeling that Josh usually does his own math just in case.
We don't, math doesn't come up too often on our show, for the record.
I went to law school.
10. That's why I don't do decimals or half points in my rating system. I can count to 10. Anyway, you give it an 8.
I went to law school, so I didn't have to.
Yeah, this show in mind a long time ago in his education. Anyway, 8.5, 8, and Lance gave it 6.5. You're good on that?
Yeah, because I feel like I paid. Okay, so usually I go to Matinee Tuesdays, where you get the cheapest tickets possible for all movies, because I don't understand why. Like, is the movie different on Friday? And you're paying more, but whatever.
There's less seats filled. That's one thing.
Yeah, it's like
more people on Tuesdays.
You got more people. You got worse seats. You pay more. Anyway, I always go on Tuesdays, and even though I had paid $8.50 for this ticket. If I had to go back, I probably wouldn't have watched it in the theater. So because it's a good movie. You get some laughs, you have some fun, but to me, it wasn't like, yeah, it wasn't quite there. So six. What did you say?
It says
6.5.
6.5.
If Tim's math is correct,
You want to check your points?
then
1 for story, 1.5 for
that
characters.
sounds about right. Like, I
1.5
would
for
give it a,
cinematography, 1.5 for
I
special
would give
effects,
it
1 for
a
music.
6 out of 10.
That's actually, I think that's a 7.5, Tim.
I would give it a 6. I don't care what the math is.
No, you know what?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5.
I hope this makes the edit. This is very important.
It is. There's everyone's numbers.
All right, I believe you.
Okay, here's the thing with what you just said. By the way, I think that'd be a brilliant, better rating system. Is how many dollars would you pay to see this movie between 1 and 10? I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway,
You put your money where. Yeah.
she'd pay $6 to see this movie. I'd pay $8.50. Anyway, when we do our ratings, we give it a final verdict, which is a telestial, terrestrial, or celestial rating or judgment.
Wait, aren't all movies telestial?
No.
Terrestrial?
Have you seen Superman, the
Celestial?
movie?
Yeah, you're
That
right.
is a celestial movie.
You didn't mention Outer Darkness.
Yeah, we actually. So the rating of celestial means it's theater worthy. Terrestrial means you can go rent it when it comes out or buy it. And telestial means you can wait around until it shows up on Netflix or something.
The Pirate Bay.
Outer Darkness is pirating. So Lance's videos.
Yeah,
Outer Darkness.
okay. I guess
Anyway.
you know where I'm at.
Yeah. So anyway, here's the thing about this one though. I would say with this movie, absolutely a celestial rating, but not because it's so amazing. Everyone's got to see it in the theater. I would say go see it in the theater, but then don't buy it. I don't think anyone needs to really have this movie in their collection, but to go experience and enjoy it on a discount ticket or for $5 or whatever, not in 3D. But so you can see the visuals, you can hear the sound and enjoy it. But once it's more like an experience, like a ride. It's more like a Hollywood Studios ride or something.
Yeah.
And then once you're done with that, you don't need to buy it. So I think it's theater worthy. I think you would have less of enjoyment for this, the impact with even the retro stuff, but the cinematic experience that they put all this work into, the amazing special effects, captured on the screen, enjoyed in the theater. But then you don't need to buy it. So I'm gonna give it a celestial, but just remember that I'm not saying it's so great everyone needs to see and have this movie.
What are you saying then, Tim?
And we should watch the movie in the theater and then go home and then watch Superman the movie.
You just gave it the highest rating.
See it in the theater. You don't have to buy it. Josh, what were you gonna say?
Okay, so I agree. This is a movie you should see in the theater for the same reasons that Tim brought up. I think it's a movie that the experience is such. I go to the theater to see movies that you want to see on the big screen because of effects and action. Marvel movies are a great example. A great movie I've seen this year is The Darkest Hour. I like that movie a lot. I thought it was really well done.
Great movie.
Not a movie I need to see in the theater, though. I could see
Right.
it. That's fine. This is one that's the opposite of that, in that it's the effects and the, you like Tim said, it's the experience. You want to go in there and see it because of that. I went in specifically for 3D because I thought it would enhance the effects. I didn't think it did, so I don't necessarily need to see it.
I agree.
But you know, if you went and saw it in 3D, I wouldn't say you were a complete moron for doing it. I did it. So
So you can still say they're a moron. You just align yourself with them.
yeah.
When I said I wouldn't see it in the theater, let me preface this by I have 3D at home and I have a pretty decent sound system. So yeah.
I think overall, I thought it was a really well done movie. I think that they're going to do a sequel. I would say this might be like the sleeper movie of the year so far, in that I thought it was really well done, and there was not a lot of people in the theater. We went and saw it on opening day. Well, Friday. It came out on Thursday night, but we went and saw it on Friday, and we went in the middle of the day, and there was like nobody there. There was not many people there. So I think this might.
Sorry, Josh, about my "why do people see movies on Friday" comment.
Well, I went and saw it just because it happened to be my birthday weekend, and I was taking a 3-day weekend, and we wanted to go.
All right, man. I don't judge.
You did earlier.
Yeah, you did. What are you talking about?
You're a lawyer. I mean, you can, you know.
Yeah, no.
Whatever you want under there and work around it. Every word or rephrase to defend. Okay, Lance, what would you give it?
No, I was saying he makes a lot of money.
Okay, he can spend it stupidly or like as a moron.
Now who's judging?
All right, Lance, what's your final judgment?
I don't really understand the criteria.
Theater, Redbox, or Netflix?
From my understanding, well, I wouldn't like. Why do people buy movies at all ever?
I didn't say none of them ever purchased it.
I can understand theater, you go
Netflix,
on Amazon. Like if you're not going to pirate because you're not like me, you go on Amazon and you pay $1 or $2 or Redbox.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a terrestrial.
Why would you ever buy a movie?
Do you think it needs to be seen in the theater though? You knocked it down for special effects and music and cinematography.
I don't think
is it worth seeing in the theater?
I think if you don't have a 3D television and a nice sound system, it's a theater movie. I'll say it's a theater movie.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so universally, Celestial Glory, but it doesn't mean it's like the best movie ever. That's not what that means. That's not what that means. That's why we have the rating system, and the final judgment is just when to go see it. Because fans want to know, should they invest in a theater ticket or just wait for it to come out? Go see it, but then you don't have to buy it.
That sounds like a very telestial thing to say.
Well, that's the thing is, normally I wouldn't say that about a movie. If I said a movie is like Star Wars, go see in the theater, and yes, that's one you need to buy when it comes out.
Let me put it this way: if you've made it to the Celestial Kingdom, you should probably not be watching this movie there.
That's not at all.
You probably have something better to do.
Anyway, it's just three categories, and I say we all said you need to see it in the theater to experience it, but not worth buying once it comes out. Because you pay $20-$30 for a movie when it comes out, or pirate it.
What the crap?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
They're brand new, absolutely.
A new Blu-ray is $20.
Is that right, Josh?
Yeah. I actually have a 4K TV, and I do buy all of my movies, Lance. And so
I have a 4K TV.
But he said and he buys his movies. Okay. You plug in your laptop. Okay, what, Josh?
So anyway, I have my 4K TV, and so I buy the movies because you can't really rent them in 4K anywhere. This is one that I will purchase because I think it was a good movie and I enjoy it, and I just collect movies. It's kind of what my thing. So
see, now we get it because I want to go through and pause different sequences to look for characters and Easter eggs. But I can probably find a YouTube video to point that all out. It's worth it. It's a nice movie if you want to have it for collection. Yeah, no one does. Anyway. That's our verdict. Overall, we gave it a 7.75 as a rating for how good it was overall. And we gave it a celestial, meaning just go see it in the theater. You guys can argue over if my math is correct. Anyway, go see it in the theater, enjoy it. And then after that, if you want to collect it for your nostalgia reasons, go for it. But if you're like Lance, you're going to pirate it. I'm sorry, did the FBI just watch this video? I hope not. And they're going to be checking your IP address and tracking you down.
Support the pirate party.
So we enjoyed it. It's a great movie. But go see it. Enjoy it. And let us know what you think in the comments below. If you actually watched this entire video, I hope you enjoyed Lance. I want to thank him for joining us. He'll come and he can be sarcastic.
I'll be back.
And ally with Josh making fun of me another time.
In the comments, you say how much you hate me. That will make me come back even more.
Yes. Lance is I'm not going to say a troll because he'll argue about that. We don't want to start another argument. But anyway, thanks for watching. And this has been a lot of fun. Thanks again to Lance. And I'm Tim Wild.
I'm Josh.
That was Josh Edlow, in case you couldn't hear that. But thanks for watching Saints on Cinema. We'll catch you next time.